So now I'm going to go into Ableton and I'm going to go through the same procedure just so you can kind of see the universal usages of different terms and how they translate across DAWs. So here I am in Ableton. The Ableton looks completely different when you open it up from Reaper. It's laid out differently. The arrangement view is more of what we were looking at like in Reaper. So the tracks are over on this side instead of on the left side, on the right side instead of the left side. And then it's got the same kind of thing. You can pick your inputs and you can solo and mute certain tracks. They have a little different way of doing that, which is just deselect when they see these orange numbers over here. You can just deselect them, that effectively mutes it. And then, you know, this is more of your traditional timeline. You can zoom in and out. It's similar to the way that it's done in Reaper. Slightly different keyboard commands or mouse commands. I'm just clicking and dragging right now up and down. The slight difference for the timeline for the arrangement view here from Reaper is that the numbers across the top are still measured numbers, and then the time is actually on the bottom rather than stacked on the top. I mean, it's just a different way of looking at it. It's a different way of visualizing that. What I do like about Ableton is that it has all of your kind of plugins and instruments all over here kind of docked in here by default. There's versions of that inside Reaper, but it's not the same thing. It's much easier to kind of drag things in. This view is not the default view though when you open up Ableton. This is the kind of secondary view. The first view that you see when you open up Ableton is this, it's called a session view, and it's kind of like the mixer in Reaper, but it's got a different function. When you're just getting ideas down, this is actually really nice to be able to create clips in here. So you're creating different sets of instrument and audio data across the top here. Once you get that all set up, then you can jump over to the arrangement view and kind of edit those sounds that you recorded, whether they were MIDI or audio data. I'll go through a full work through of how to do that in both programs as well. I just wanted to show you the interface right now. See how I was talking before about different tracks being different types in here. So you can't change a audio or MIDI clip to one or the other, unlike Reaper in Ableton. But what you can do is you can insert clips. So I say, okay, I want to insert an audio track here, and I'll just add another one. Now I'm just right clicking with the mouse and creating those. MIDI tracks can only host virtual instruments, keyboard MIDI controller inputs, things like that. There's a few shortcut commands you should know in Ableton. When you come down to the bottom, you hit Shift Tab and it'll bring up your instrument view. So say, okay, I wanted to load an instrument here. Let's just grab one of these synthesizers, all right? So I'll just drag it into there and it will load it up and it will give me this virtual instrument. Even though it doesn't say MIDI anymore, this is still a MIDI track. It's a little confusing, but it just means that you can only record MIDI notes and not audio. So you'd have to have an audio track specifically to record audio. So yeah, I'm gonna delete this clip that I made. I just did double clicked in here, and then that's really just if you wanna manually write in the notes, but I wanna play it in with this keyboard, so I'm gonna hit delete and start over, and then I'm going to hit this little circle, which is going to effectively put it into record mode. It's going to give me a little count in, and then I can go through. And that's terrible, but it's just showing you as a demonstration. So as you could see, when that was recording, you could see the MIDI notes kind of coming up in real time. Reaper's similar to that, but it's a little more elegant in Ableton, to be honest. Now, if you want to play that clip back, I can just hit play, hit the stop button up here, and hit play. Yeah, like song of the year right there. So if I wanted to go and layer something on top of that, I would just toggle over to the next MIDI track, grab a different synthesizer, say I want to grab, here, let's grab this DX7. Classic synthesizer, the DX7, much hated in the 80s because of its kind of very 80s sound. Let's get something that's really, there we go, that's a good one. That sound is more of a, along the lines of what DX7 sounded like. Say, all right, so I got this DX7 in here. I'm gonna record a little bit more. Let's hit the button. 2, 3, 4. So it's playing the other one. Anyway, that's 2 tracks now I've laid down that are MIDI tracks. Now, we're gonna hit stop, and then we can just play it back and listen to what we just did. Yeah, that is a banger. All right, so I got those 2 MIDI tracks in here. Now I'm gonna use my microphone and I'm gonna get a little bit of audio down. So check this out. I'm in session view right now. I'm gonna go over to arrangement view, hit tab, and it's gonna come over to here and it's gonna be nothing here because we haven't arranged anything yet. We just are recording clips in the session view. So we're just kind of building our idea. So this is the way that Ableton works. You kind of build your ideas first as little segments, as little loops, and then you throw it over into the arrangement view. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make sure that this track is record armed. If you can see down here, this is the little red button here. It's a circular red button in Reaper, a little bit different. So I'm gonna hit the record button over here. As long as the track is armed, these little circles will show up. If it's not, you'll see something that's these little squares, which means stop. So I'll hit this right here. It'll give me a little count in, and I can do a little bit of audio track with my very special song that I made just for you. So now I've got 3 clips. I hit stop. I'm gonna reset it. I double click the stop button up here. I'm gonna hit play. And I can do a little bit of audio track with my very special song that I made just for you. So there's that audio track that I made. I'm gonna unclick this red button to stop it from getting inputs. So when I hit the tab key, I should still see nothing. So we're still working in session view. We haven't actually told it to do any kind of arranging yet. So what I want to do, let's say I want to start building my scene, building clips. So I hit tab again, I come over here, I grab one of these, I grab it like this, I hit tab, I come over here and I drop it into this same track. So I'm gonna grab this clip, I hold it, I'm dragging and holding, and hit tab and bring it over here. And drag and drop it right there. It's pretty intuitive the way it's set up. So then if I want to loop this clip, all I'd have to do is grab the top. I'm going to actually trim this a little bit so it's the same length. I'm just going to grab the control or command key on a Mac and drag it over here. And then I just made a duplicate of that clip. So I've got 2 clips right next to each other and they're exactly the same thing. So I'm going to grab this one, same thing, grab it over here. So then I can kind of start arranging in this arrangement view. Grab this guy, same thing. I'm gonna drag it off and then I'm gonna paste it in here like that. Just drop it right there. So now I have an audio track in here as well and everybody's happy. So now what we have to do is we have to get the arrangement view to be the thing that you're hearing when you press the play button. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up here into this little box here where this little orange block is and hit that, and what that's going to do is it's going to use this transport instead of the session view transport. So you're going to be able to hear what's coming from the arrangement view versus the session view. So you can start with track with my very special song that I made just for you. So you're hearing what's in the arrangement view now, not what's in the session view. So now you'll see that these clips have lighted up in a brighter color. So now you can start working in here. All right, so if I'm in here and I want to cut this clip in half, say I hit Control E, and it's going to split this piece, split these clips in half. So you're going to see, that these have been broken up into 2 things. So I can reverse that song that I made just for you. And I could do a little bit of audio track with my spare. All right, so you get the idea. That's pretty much how recording is done in Ableton. You can also record directly into this view. So if I say I want to add some more recording here, I can just go ahead and re-enable set the playhead here, hit stop. All right, set the playhead around here. And in this track, I hit the little red button again, the little red circle over here to enable my recording. I'm gonna turn the speakers down so I don't get any feedback. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and record. So I hit record up here. 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to go ahead and talk, and it's going to show up in this timeline as I'm talking. So I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to turn this back up, and you can hear what I just made. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk, and it's going to show up in this timeline as I'm talking. If you want, you can just record the entire session in arrangement view. If you want to just record in the arrangement view, that's totally fine. That's actually much more like what happens in Reaper. When you're mixing, it's a very similar situation to when you're in Reaper. You can go over here and your mixer, so I'm muting and unmuting, solo, that kind of stuff. And then your fader is this little guy here, this little triangle. that's kind of going along here. I really like, a lot of people really like this interface. They love these kind of little simple circles and things like that. I really don't like them at all. I think they're really kind of clunky looking. I'm just not that excited when I go to use this. And it's another thing about it's obviously personal choice, but that's, again, your vibe. If your vibe, the way that you do things really jives well with Ableton, please use Ableton. Ableton's great. It's a great piece of software. I wish I loved it as much as everybody else does, honestly. That's the basics of Ableton. So I'm gonna go over real quick. This is Session View, which is not, they don't have anything like Session View in Reaper at the moment. This is Session View, where you can kind of build your ideas. And when you hit the tab key, you can toggle over to Arrangement View or Timeline View. Very nice, clean view. You can set your inputs. You can record everything in here if that's the way you want to work. So it's a nice amount of flexibility. If you're not doing anything that's kind of loop based, you can use this instead. Up here at the top is your transport controls, your stop, your record, your playback. And then up here in the upper left-hand corner, you've got your BPM. That's set to 120 right now. You can change that easily. Put it down to 90. It'll change your timeline down here. And then you can change your time signature and all that other good stuff. So when I play back, it's probably a little... And I can do a little bit of audio track with my... Obviously, there's a little bit of warping going on, similar to Reaper. You got to do a little bit more finesse and able to make that sound better. But we're not going to get into that right now. This is just interface. Down here is where you would load your effects and your virtual instruments per track. So if I click on here, you're going to see that this bottom part here changes and it shows up. So nothing for audio right now. I can put effects and things like that. But we'll go over that later. Mixer, transport, arrangement. And if you want, then you can go back into the preferences and it's control or command comma, and then you get into your inputs and outputs here for both your MIDI instruments, your MIDI controllers, and your microphones or your interface configuration. So those are the main parts. I'll go over more in depth once we get to the part where we're explaining how to connect up microphones and connections and things like that.